HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Healing Your Child's Brain, a Proven Approach to Helping Your Child Thrive, by Matthew and Carol Newell. Read by Joe Hempel. Publisher's note: this audiobook refers to charts included in the print and ebook editions of the book. Foreword by Dr. George Goodwin. As an internal medicine physician with more than 20 years of experience, I carried a high degree of skepticism toward alternative treatment systems that had not already been clinically proven. I received my Doctor of Medicine from the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland. I am board certified in internal medicine. I had the privilege to serve for over 25 years in the Army. During my career, I deployed twice, serving our soldiers in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I was also the chief medical officer for a military medical facility at Fort Eustis, Virginia. I culminated my career as a colonel in the Pentagon, overseeing the disability program for our wounded warriors and directing all the medical standards for readiness in the Army. All this experience was within what would be considered traditional medicine. For my wife Renee and I, our journey began with a son who had developmental delays and social challenges in a spectrum disorder. We noted within the first couple of years that although our son was developing physically, he had severe difficulty interacting with others in normal social environments, preschool, church, and other social gatherings. We had our son evaluated several times. We were encouraged by both his teachers and conventional medical providers to put him on medication for ADHD, but never elected to do so. Instead, we were looking for alternatives to help him succeed. Therefore, when one of my colleagues at the Pentagon informed me of the work that Matthew and Carol were doing with their 3 children, I was cautiously intrigued. He shared the impacts that they were seeing in their children's progress, which was a personal perspective that I could see firsthand. Renee and I chose to go to a 3-day parent training conference to research the actual methodology being implemented at the Family Hope Center. Employing a very holistic approach, Matthew and Carol demonstrated the observable impacts they have seen over nearly 40 years of clinical experience. During our time there, I studied all the material that was provided and researched as much medical literature as I could obtain on neuroplasticity and brain healing. Although I still did not fully understand all the underlying physiology of the healing that they were observing, Renee and I decided to partner with Matthew and Carol and the team at the Family Hope Center to see what impact it would have with our son and family, because I was convinced that sufficient evidence existed in literature and in the early research that Matthew and Carol were completing. We did have to make some changes in our life to integrate the holistic approach to obtain improvement for our son. The biggest changes were in our schedule, time management and calendar planning, and our diet. The whole family made some adjustments. However, the results were unquestionable. Our son's improvements in his physical abilities, social interactions, and application of cognitive learning were immense. I was unsure how my son would be able to survive in the world with the deficits we were seeing, but now we are confident that he will be able not only to survive, but to thrive in the world around him. As the fields of neurocognitive research, neurodevelopment, and brain healing continue to develop, it is exciting to see pioneers that continue to partner with families and to see clinical impacts in the lives of young men and women. Both as a physician and a father, I am thrilled to witness this work being published. It is imperative these perspectives on healing be shared. This book will begin to provide insights into the application of the principles that Renee and I have used to see the improvements in our home. These clinically proven results based on this fresh approach will positively impact more families, providing hope. George Goodwin, M.D., internal medicine physician at Fort Belvoir Community Hospital, U.S. Army Colonel, and former Director of Disability Evaluations at the Office of the Surgeon General. Introduction: Shifting the Special Needs Landscape. Autism, ADD, ADHD, OCD, behavior-related disorders, learning difficulties, delayed and disorganized language, genetic-based neurodevelopmental delay, dyslexia, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, traumatic brain injury. Think about the last night you really had a good night's sleep. From the moment you had the sinking feeling in your stomach that your child was struggling, to the moment when your child was diagnosed with one of these special needs-related conditions, sleep has likely been scarce. Sleep is difficult, perhaps even impossible, when you know that your child in the room next to you is not thriving the way they should. You toss and turn with worry and dread because you are concerned, yet confused by what to do. Perhaps you've already consulted with an array of doctors, specialists, therapists, and support groups, tried this and that, and now feel overwhelmed, ignored, misunderstood, marginalized, or disappointed by your efforts and by the outcome. You know that somehow, somewhere, you must find a way to help your child. Well, we're here to show you that way, a way that has worked successfully for thousands of children. We're here to guide and support you and your family. Symptoms are not the cause. Over the last decade, you may have noticed or read about a substantial rise in the number and variety of neurological issues being discovered and diagnosed in our children, as well as an increase in reading, learning, and behavioral problems. Along with this trend, there's been an increase in the use of medication to manage symptoms. Symptoms merely indicate that a condition exists, and treating symptoms does not and never will foster healing. In fact, it does the opposite. For the healing process to begin, you must first identify and examine the source of the injury manifesting the symptoms. Very often, that brings us back to the brain. The goal of healing your child's brain is to change the way you look at your child and their potential. We'll explore what is happening in the hard drive of the brain and how it is affecting your child's neurology. We'll explain how, when you stimulate specific areas of the brain, you will witness firsthand how those dreaded symptoms gradually disappear. Once you are on the real path, the path to wellness, you will see your child develop. You will discover what you can do to understand, support, improve, and help to heal your child, wherever they are on the continuum of neurological organization. 38 years and more than 20,000 families. Over the last 38 years, we've taught and helped nearly 20,000 families whose children have ranged in ability from very well organized to children who are blind, deaf, insensate, paralyzed, or so hurt that they required a tracheotomy to breathe and a feeding tube to be nourished. We've seen children with every diagnosis imaginable at our office in Pennsylvania and across 6 continents. We can say with certainty that the vast majority of even seemingly well children have their share of neurological bumps and bruises. Few children achieve neurological advancement without significant support or intervention by their parents and healthcare professionals. So, even if your sole intention is to find a new way to help your most vulnerable child, the odds are that every child in your family will benefit from what you learn here. Our approach is bottom-up, inside-out, and scientific-based. We have documented results to back up our work. In fact, our program's success rate is sometimes nearly triple the national average based on the WeFIM assessment. The WeFIM is the most widely used system in the world for documenting the severity of child-patient disabilities and rehabilitation outcomes. You can learn more about this at www.familyhopecenter.com/results.htm. Above all, we are parents too. We have sat where you are now sitting and have dedicated our careers and our lives to helping and empowering parents to learn about the brain and gain the confidence and skills necessary to proactively engage with their child with special needs in a neurosequential manner. Our story. Our journey began as students working in a university clinic, Matthew in the U.S., and as an NNEB, Diploma in Child Care and Education, Carol in her native England. As young adults, we both trained under some of the most innovative practitioners in the field of brain development. We studied and received certifications in child brain development, and later in craniosacral and myofascial release therapy, infant parent mental health, and many other progressive therapies. We ran programs around the world for neurologically impaired children and teens. All these experiences and efforts eventually led us to establish the Family Hope Center in Norristown, Pennsylvania, and 2002, where we evaluate the neurology of children and teach, guide, and support parents to implement comprehensive, individualized programs we create for each child we treat, fostering brain function and development. On a personal note, we even met, married, and started our family while working with children. Our training and expertise were put to the test, however, when 2 of our children faced complex developmental difficulties. Our son, Ben, met his developmental milestones in a typical manner. He is now a well-rounded adult who is working with us to establish a flagship school that will provide a comprehensive educational program for children with neurodevelopmental disabilities. Our daughter, Shayna, started life as a healthy baby. At the age of 3 months, she had an adverse reaction and high fever in response to a DPT vaccination. While this correlation might have been a tragic coincidence or an anomaly, given the scientifically disproved concern regarding vaccines, we nevertheless witnessed her abrupt changes firsthand. She developed strabismus, became hemiplegic, incapable of using one side of her body, and by the time she was school-aged, had developed severe learning problems. At the age of 7, she could still not read her name or identify the letters of the alphabet. It took 9 years of daily, diligent effort to heal our daughter. She became an excellent violinist and competed at a high level in gymnastics. She now has a doctorate in occupational therapy and works at a hospital. She readily recalls the difficulties she had growing up, struggling to read and retain information. These tribulations challenged her confidence and self-esteem, which, in turn, made her fiercely committed to overcoming her limitations. Shayna remembers the intense programs we implemented to make her whole again. She lives in the present and appreciates the abilities she has now. She knows that her hard work, and ours, has paid off. As parents, we have the peace of knowing we were able to shepherd her through her injury and give her the best possible future. We adopted our youngest daughter, Mary Tanisha, when she was 5 months old. She came to us with neurological challenges that made her cry for hours on end. It was heartbreaking and frustrating, but once we identified the root of her issues, we took steps to heal her as we did with her older sister. However, as she matured, additional intellectual and social challenges emerged, exacerbated by a sugar addiction. She was often impertinent, angry, and prone to harmful behaviors. Mary was stubborn and frequently railed against the neurotherapy she needed to do that would lead to her improvement. Of course, we loved her unconditionally and knew she needed our love, focus, and persistence in kind, so we found the strength to move through her conflicts and the chaos. Over time, we balanced her brain chemistry and helped her to overcome her physiological and neurological difficulties and turned the corner. Her stubbornness transformed into strength. Now in her 20s, Mary has successfully graduated from college, where she was a championship athlete. She works as an EMT and as a fire department lieutenant. By neurologically organizing her brain, we were able to develop her potential and set her on a healthy path. And we did it all as a family. We had to apply all the knowledge we gained throughout our careers and clinical work, and seeking solutions when we hit snags, to help our daughters overcome their respective challenges. The results didn't happen overnight. It took many years of learning, dedication, patience, tough love, and continued faith in the brain's ability to heal. The result of this journey is that we now have 2 valuable perspectives to share with you, one as professionals in this field, and the other as parents with children possibly just like yours. We've been in your shoes. We know exactly how you feel, what you've been going through, and how resilient you can be. We empathize with and care about you and your child. We also know what works. That is why we are compelled to impart our knowledge and the neurological strategies necessary that get results, so that you can become empowered and productive neuroparents. The journey ahead. When you listen and digest everything that follows, you will quickly understand that making a shift in your perspective will take you from feeling hopeless to hopeful. By learning more about the brain and how it can heal, you'll change your focus away from what your child can't do and toward what they can do. You will learn how to help your child based on his or her current capabilities rather than where they're supposed to be. About the 7 key developmental areas that help you evaluate your child. These are critical to helping your child function successfully in daily life and are also the ones most medical professionals focus on at routine checkups. How to measure your child's current ability in each of these 7 neurological pathways, and how to support healthy, measurable growth in each of these areas. You'll receive guidance on what you can do to heal these dysfunctional or compromised pathways and get your child back on track. The areas of the brain responsible for each sensory, motor, and social function. How to create an ideal home environment for your child's neurological growth and gain insights into what causes brain injuries in the first place. Throughout the book, we'll share stories about the children and families we've worked with and the obstacles they faced and overcame. We will also present all these seemingly complicated ideas in a manner that respects your intelligence and your already limited time. With few exceptions, every injury to the brain is capable of healing. No matter how mild or profound, we have rarely run across a brain injury that couldn't be improved or completely healed given enough time, the correct approach, and dedicated effort. Since we contend that you know your child better than anyone else, as you become more aware of the source of your child's neurological injury and their current and potential capabilities, you'll be in the ultimate position to help them make progress. We are going to help you take control of your child's destiny. You are the loving, determined parent who may currently be confused, but you are also relentless in your pursuit of creating a productive and satisfying life for your child. This book will begin to provide you with tools, knowledge, and guidance to make it all happen. All the very best, Matthew and Carol Newell. Chapter 1. Setting the Foundation for Healing. When a child is born, parents embark on a journey they've been planning for 9 months. Their hearts are filled with love, joy, and optimism. They dream of a life for their child in which cherished milestones are reached, the first utterance of mama and dada, their baby's first steps, first day at school, college graduation, engagement, and marriage. They dream of watching their child creating a life for themselves over the years. For parents like you, the dream is eclipsed by a major complication at birth, or by a series of increasingly worrisome moments in which you begin to sense that something seems off. You may have witnessed a massive collapse of your child's neurological health, or, over time, noticed small red flags in your child's growth, such as delayed speech, lack of or difficult movement, slow motor skills development, poor eye contact, and feeding or digestive issues. Developmental milestones that other children are reaching fail to occur. Concern, disappointment, and eventually a feeling bordering on panic set in. As we posed in the introduction, after you realized that your child had a problem, when was the last time you really had a good night's sleep? We know what that's like. We've been there ourselves. When our 2 precious girls were young and hurt, we metaphorically slept with one eye open until we understood what was going on and what we could do to help. When you witness firsthand your child's array of struggles, you begin a new, unpredictable, and existential journey, one without a clear roadmap, to seek and find concrete answers to the questions pounding in your head. What is happening with my child? Is something wrong? What can I do? Examinations are made, tests are run, and in many cases you come face to face with a doctor who delivers the unfathomable news of your child's diagnosis, and you realize that your child is now considered special needs. At that moment, the dream feels shattered, your life derailed, and you have no clue how to get back on track or what the destination will be. Perhaps you had a different scenario. Your child might have been developing on target, socializing well, excelling at school, and thriving, but in the blink of an eye they went from healthy to profoundly injured due to a car crash, stroke, infection, physical assault, or a tragic accident. Suddenly, you were thrust into the chaos of coming to terms with everything that has transpired and wondering if your child's life, and your own, will ever be the same again. And that reckoning for you may be even harder to contend with because of the loss of what was. Maybe your circumstances fall somewhere in the middle. You have a child who can't read well or keep up at school, seems clumsy and uncoordinated, struggles to bond with or integrate into the family and community, has high anxiety levels and is prone to distorted behaviors that alienate them from other kids, and struggles against the classifying labels already being applied to them. No matter what happened to your child, your life as a parent, which was already one of focus and purpose, has now transformed into a life of hyper-focus and hyper-purpose. You've likely been consumed by the need to read, research, and inquire continually about your child's diagnosis and the viable treatment options to help them. You may also be overwhelmed by the opinions of doctors, therapists, professionals, family members, literature, support groups, and other parents with whom you've networked. You may have tried one or two courses of action, or tried everything, but nothing works. You may have lost hope altogether, having been told that there is little that can be done for your child, and the best you can do is take them home, care for them, and love them. Do any of these situations reflect your despair? If so, chances are you picked up this book because somehow you still have hope. A hope that is born of love and parenthood. A hope that defines you. We want to provide you with a realistic, scientifically based path that can begin to dispel your fears, frustrations, and anguish. We encourage you to embrace this hope and to make a shift away from despair toward possibility. It all begins with a simple change of perspective. From this moment forward, the focus is not on what your child cannot do, but what they can do. Inside your hurt child is a precious and miraculous organ that is capable of manifesting growth and healing: the brain. It is possible to change the structure of your child's brain, from the cells themselves to the connections between the cells. The process of the brain reorganizing and forming massive synaptic connections is called neuroplasticity. By harnessing the brain's ability to grow and change slowly and steadily over time, your child can make progress toward healing. Embracing the possible. Okay, we know. You just heard that last paragraph and you're thinking, how can that be? After all, up until now you haven't been given any reason to imagine otherwise. You've reluctantly accepted the current and prevailing so-called wisdom, a potentially limiting belief system based on information you've heard or read. Here's a question for you. What is the moon made of? As you were processing the answer to this question, did you at any time think cheese? You now know that's not the correct answer, but at some point in your childhood, you probably thought it was true because you heard it from a sibling or maybe even a parent or grandparent. When someone you know, love, and trust tells you something with emotion, you will take it at face value and believe it to be true. This can be called a myth. It's a widespread belief or tradition that has grown up around something or someone, an unfounded, false notion. In fact, any widely held falsehood is a myth, and these myths influence our thoughts and intentions. Some myths are harmless, but others shape and drive our behavior by validating existing yet false ideas that prevent us from embracing new ones. This type of powerfully learned event can become hardwired into our brains. Suddenly, if we're asked about the consistency of the moon, we subconsciously default to cheese. In the case of our children with special needs, we can perpetuate unfounded myths. Think of all the myths you've heard about your child's situation and the conclusions you've drawn in your mind that now shape your beliefs. My child is autistic, and since there is no cure for autism, I can't help them. If a child is 6 years old, their brain can no longer grow or change. My child has cerebral palsy and will never walk. Once you are blind for 5 months, you will always be blind. Your child will never read above a 3rd grade level. Seizures are bad and can kill you. My child is stuck and will never get well. Whatever you've been told and have come to believe about your child their capabilities, and their future, and regardless of where that information came from, being forced into accepting these beliefs based on false information is counterproductive to progress. By listening to this book, you're in the midst of challenging these beliefs. You're being open-minded to new concepts and possibilities. Good for you, good for your family, good for your child. The most significant misconception to immediately overcome is that your child cannot be healed. If that's what you've heard and come to believe, think again. The reality is, and it bears repeating, that if your child has sustained any neurologically based injury or impairment, there are ways to reorganize the brain so it can form new synaptic connections, which will ultimately help your child on the path toward healing. In the chapters that follow, you'll become more knowledgeable about the brain in general, begin to understand more about your child's brain, and learn how to identify which parts of your child's brain are happy and which parts are not so happy. The function of appropriately targeted stimulation and output will determine the growth and structure of the brain. In other words, just like your muscles, the brain grows by use. The more we stimulate the brain, the more the brain will grow. This growth can happen even when your brain is 90 years old. It just needs consistent and energetic stimulation. We'll show you how to promote and sustain neurophysiological growth in your child. Most importantly, we'll help you see what is possible and how you can be in the driver's seat of your child's neurological life. By focusing on where your child is developmentally, our starting point, and embracing what is scientifically possible, you will begin to feel more hopeful and upbeat. That change in your demeanor will not only serve to motivate you, but also resonate with your child and your family. Together, you can defy the odds and dispel that erroneous myth that your child will never. To prepare for the journey to what's possible, start by becoming more informed and, consequently, more empowered. You can achieve this by recognizing and embracing your pivotal role as a parent and by making a few fundamental shifts in your mindset and resolve. Some may come more easily than others, but if you take heed, maintain a sense of optimism, believe in yourself, and trust your innate wisdom, you will become more confident, more focused, and more effective in helping your child. You are your child's best advocate. Question: who really knows your child best? Answer: without a shadow of uncertainty, you do. This answer may seem obvious in principle, but when you are continually advocating for your child to doctors, therapists, counselors, and teachers, all of whom may confidently share their opinions about your child and what can and should be done for them, you might begin to doubt your ideas or instincts. Don't. From the moment your baby was born, you were the one who interacted with them every day. You fed, changed, played, and cuddled them, watching every movement, every mood, and every smile. You discovered their likes and dislikes of food, toys, people, and surroundings. You witnessed their first cry, first coo, and first laugh. The minute you sensed something was wrong or of concern, you were the first to notice and take action. And you're still the one who's there each morning when they wake up, and you tuck them into bed each night when they go to sleep. You are the one providing unconditional, consistent love and a steadfast commitment to seeking knowledge and exploring options and solutions. No one else knows or understands your child as well as you do. Working with a trusted doctor, therapist, or another professional is necessary and essential, particularly during your child's formative years. These are people who should become part of your support team. But when it comes to basic maternal and paternal instincts and astute awareness, parents rule. In fact, to confirm this stance, in 2016 we commissioned a research study in the United States with the Harris Poll, which found that 9 in 10 parents of a child diagnosed with special needs believe they, or their spouse or partner, have the best understanding of their child's development. Additionally, 90% of these parents also believe that they or their spouse or partner have the most influence on their child's development. Furthermore, not only do these parents think they understand their children the most, but they also think they're in the best position to guide their children to positive futures. Never underestimate your intelligence and innate understanding of your child. Trust your instinct.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?